Okay, Lauren, thanks very much. Former police officer Derek Chauvin is in a jail cell in Minnesota this morning, awaiting his sentence for murdering George Floyd last year in Minneapolis. After the jury found him guilty on all 3 counts that he faced, he was led away in handcuffs. The verdict drew shouts of joy and relief outside the courtroom and indeed all over the country. ABC's Ike Ejiochi is live in Minneapolis this morning with a look at what comes next. Good morning, Ike.
Good morning, Christian. Guilty on all 3 charges. Derek Chauvin was motionless as the judge read the verdict out loud, and now renewed calls for police reform on Capitol Hill.
Overnight, celebrations and even some fireworks in Minneapolis. After 10.5 hours of deliberation,
Members of the jury, I will now read the verdicts.
Judge Peter Cahill announcing the fate of former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin.
We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to count 1, unintentional second-degree murder while committing a felony, find the defendant guilty.
Chauvin convicted of all 3 counts: second-degree murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter. The jury of 7 women and 5 men, which included 6 people of color, stayed late Monday night and came in early Wednesday, working swiftly without sending a single question during their 10.5 hours of deliberations. The former officer, silent and stoic as the verdict was read, eventually led away in handcuffs and taken back into custody. At George Floyd Square, near where he was murdered, the crowd erupting in cheers, and in Houston, Floyd's family members, including his older brother, watching as the verdict was read.
Today, we are able to breathe again. Just because you are the law, you're not above the law.
Convicted, guilty on all counts, George Floyd mattered. Headlines from some of the nation's top newspapers this morning. Even President Biden sharing a solemn moment with the family, saying the verdict is a step in the right direction, but more needs to be done.
In order to deliver real change and reform, we can and we must do more to reduce the likelihood that tragedies like this will ever happen and occur again.
Overnight, Democrats renewing their push for Congress to pass the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act that would ban chokeholds and no-knock warrants, among other measures.
Now, despite the renewed calls for legislation, the bill faces an uphill battle on Capitol Hill. It'll need every single Democrat to support it, including 10 Republicans. Christian.
Okay, so I can tell you here in Baltimore, the activists have been closely watching the trial of Derek Chauvin there in Minneapolis after everything that's happened here in Baltimore over the past several years, and indeed around the country. Are the people there in Minneapolis aware of the impact that case is having everywhere else?
They are. The people here in Minneapolis, they feel that this verdict is an inflection point. They feel that this country is finally turning the page towards accountability and justice in terms of police reform. You have to understand, for the entire week, there have been protests here in Minneapolis on the ground, not just for this incident with George Floyd, but 10 miles away at Brooklyn Center, they were talking about another police-involved shooting with Dante Wright, the 20-year-old who was pulled over for having that air freshener on his mirror. So the people here, you saw it when the verdict happened, those cries of jubilation, of joy, and of tears. That's because this case has been weighing on them for almost a year now. And they've noticed that throughout history, they've seen police officers being charged with murder and manslaughter, them walking away. For them to see this police officer charged with 3 counts and all those counts be a guilty verdict, they feel that this country is finally turning a page in the right direction. Christian, I'm reporting live in Minneapolis. Ike Ejiochi for Good Morning Maryland. Back to you.